Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer, and this is the Road to the Record, where I work to achieve mastery of 10 games in a hunt for the best score of the Decathlon. If you like what you see, remember to hit that like button. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe. Let the games begin. This is Draft Day Sports College Basketball 2017. It is tournament time, but not for me. We are at the beginning of a new season. The 2022-2023 season to be exact. We have now for the second time been promoted to Conference U after winning the conference championship and making our first ever NCAA tournament bid appearance last year. We went into the play-in game and won that game, then going up against the number one seed where we got our butts kicked. But we did finally get a tournament appearance. Now, coming off of that success, finally, it was approved by the board to improve the facilities. They're still not good, but at least it's up to a C- instead of a D, like it had been previously. So our facilities are a little bit better than before. We might start to see more improvement coming out of the players that way. Taking a look at our profile, our offensive and defensive concepts, our scouting ability is not too far off from where everything started. That's the one that has not improved steadily. I'd say about the left hand, where my mouse pointer is now, is where all five of these categories were at the start 5 years ago. So we have improved our recruiting ability immensely, but player development and offensive and defensive concepts have definitely improved over the course of this game. So as we go to head into the regular season, we're going to jump straight to a quick look at the roster. We have two new scholarship players and a new walk-on this year. Our walk-on is Erickson Lancaster, and of course the walk-ons, as usual, are well below that level of their peers, and so won't be featuring in the team. But our new scholarship players, Larry Zimmerman, point guard, out of Hood River, Oregon. Not a tremendous GPA, so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. Might have to grab him a tutor at some point to keep him on top of his grades. But he is going to be redshirting this year. And our other incoming freshman, Ray Price, power forward, 6'7", 192 pounds. Also going to be redshirting this year. Nice GPA, though, out of Brewster, Washington. So both of our freshmen this year have redshirted. So minus our couple of graduates, we have last year's team back intact without anybody to step in their place, which is both good and bad. Because there hasn't been a ton of off-season improvements. You look at our overall ratings, they're not that great. So Zimmerman and Price are both redshirting, so they're going to be out. Lancaster is... Let's see. One of our walk-ons. Who was the other walk-on? Billy Marshall. Okay, and they're right at the bottom, right where they should be. And I'm going to bump them up because neither one of them is going to have substantial impact. Though, apparently Billy Marshall and Lancaster are both better than presumed. Right. Preston Favors continues to be our struggling player, surprisingly. Looking back here again, what's our shooting guard situation? Mike Walter is a senior this year and still struggling. Preston Favors, just the sophomore. Neely's the one who's stepping in. And Favors was the higher recruit over Neely. But it looks like Neely's the one who, at least thus far, has been better as a player. So Favors, we'll get him sometime. Mike Walter, as a senior, still not providing a lot of quality. Charles George, on the other hand, should definitely be ahead of Mike Walter on the depth chart with that 3.0 rating. Okay, probably put them to 85, and we're going to have mostly a 9-man rotation this year, as this is kind of where our quality list, everybody is 2 stars or better at this point. Alright, so they think Isaac Kidd should be our starter at 2.5 stars. Charles George is 3. Let's look at them kind of head to head. So scoring, Kidd's at 29, George is an 18. Passing's neck and neck. Handling's a lot better for Kidd. Offensive rebounds, a little better for George. Dribbling, a little better for George. Defense, way better for Kidd than George. So yeah, we'll keep Kidd as the starter, but George should be a solid backup. And here we are again, Clifton Jennings seen over David Blackman, but David Blackman is 3.5 stars. So let's see if they actually have something behind that. 2034 offensive rebound, huge edge to Blackman, and defensive rebounding. So let's go ahead and get Blackman in there as starter over Jennings. And we got Marsh and Cole. Our greatest depth is definitely at the small forward position. And taking a look here, Julian Marsh actually might be starting over Reginald Neely. Let's draw the comparison here. Passing, handling similar, rebounding is similar. Neely's a better defender, but the individual, Marsh, is going to force a lot of steals. We'll leave Neely on for now. We'll see what they can do here at the start of the season anyway. Okay, so we're going to get a bit of rotation out of those guys at least early on in the season to see what kind of quality we get out of these players. So Marcus Lowe's the only one who's set to play shooting guard at all. He is the shorter player. I'm wondering if Marsh should be added to my shooting guard list because Walter and Favors really shouldn't be getting a whole lot of minutes as their quality is quite a bit lower. Especially when Walter's already a senior and Favors just isn't showing the quality. He's a bit of a bust as a recruit. So yeah, we're going to add Julian Marsh to the shooting guard list. So he'll pick up some minutes there. And Aki Collins, even though he's only rated 2 stars, has played well in his first 2 years. All right, so there's our depth chart for now. It might change over the course of the season. Put George here above Jennings, above Kevin Cole with that 3-star rating. Put those guys in order. All right, so the last thing we're going to take a look at before we get into our first game of the season is our incoming recruiting class. We've had 2 verbals so far, and as is the case always with our team, as we are in such a low division, once I get verbal recruits, their ranking seems to slip. It's like as soon as they become associated with our team at our low prestige level, their ranking always slips by 100 to even 300 positions in the rankings. These guys were both in the top 150, which was absolutely phenomenal for us as such a small program at such a low level. But we have a power forward and a shooting guard so far signed up for next year, so Gerard Feltz and Robert Armstrong. And like I said, they had been inside, one of them anyway, had been inside the top 100 available recruits. So now I'm down to 2 more scholarships, and one of them I'm actually still hanging on to. Only one is offered currently. And that's Marcelo Lee, a small forward that we're trying to get after. But otherwise, I have not offered out the other just yet. And you can see our list has shrunk. I had a really, really big list at the start of the offseason. If you watched the last episode, you've probably seen just how big that list was. But you can see in terms of quality of recruits, still looking at primarily some really, really quality players. And these last 3 are decent guys out there, except for, wow, that's a D and an F. I hadn't noticed that. That's a recent change here. Morgan needs to come off my list, which means we really need to get after those couple guys. I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I had not noticed his change in ratings from earlier. I let all the players go that are incapable of scoring and incapable of playing D, so he's going to come off our list. But you can see we are definitely getting down to it. But interest is not a given. I still have 1 player on the list who's really not interested at all, but I'm really trying to get after him. But I have developed some interest among quite a few guys here, slowly but surely. It took quite a while, but we're getting after some of them. But our list has whittled down both from myself eliminating players like I just did here with Morgan, and that's certainly the lower ranked guys that have been eliminated that way. But I've had plenty of players that have already given verbals to other teams and have been eliminated that way. I've also had some that were eliminated because they were surplus, as I've already got these 2 committed. So I've still got 1 or 2 power forwards, 1 or 2 shooting guards left on the list, kind of as backups, just in case something happens with one of these 2, especially when it comes to their SAT score, which will be coming up, I believe it was in January, to make sure that they still are eligible for the school. So here's Feltz on that list. He's got a 2.9 GPA, so he should be fine. But look at it there at Armstrong. He is just a 2.2, so he actually might not qualify for the school. But Feltz and Armstrong are both rated as Bs and really should be pretty quality players. Armstrong, I'm not actually too worried if he doesn't end up qualifying. He was the highest player on the list quite a while ago. He was the first one to give verbal, and his ranking has dropped 300 places since then. And since then, I've seen a couple of these other guys not only rise up above him, but the top 2 on the list are both shooting guards now. They're both really solid on the ratings, especially here. But it's a junior college transfer. But Williams would be a fantastic player, and I might just offer him a scholarship anyway, knowing that we're only going to get 2 years out of him. But since I'm hurting on the point guard front, like Ford here has just not stepped on board, and he's only a C rating anyway. And the next lowest one here, Wise, he's okay, he's decent. But we could probably get Williams over Wise, and he could have more of an immediate impact with some pretty outstanding categories here besides his rebounding. Well, anyway, that's where we're at. I've already done what I needed to do for the week. So we're halfway through our recruiting this year, but our list is definitely down to it. So we're going to go ahead and sim this first day of the season. And we're going to get to our first game, which is still not yet. Our first game here is coming up 2 days from now on the 16th. We're going to be on the road at Troy. Alright, and we're going to go ahead and watch the sim on that game. Our RPI doesn't mean anything yet, as we have not played a game on the season. We are on the road. There's definitely something behind playing at home that makes the team stronger, so we will see what kind of impact that has as we get started. Alright, so first game of the season, we will be flying through this one with speed 10. Alright, at least through 5 minutes we are level, but neither team is scoring a whole lot so far. Ourselves down a little bit here, but not a big deficit as we're halfway through the first half. See, we're staying kind of right on their tail. In fact, we're level now at 23. Okay, we go into the second half down 5. I still have all of my timeouts left, besides the 1:30 you lose in the second half. But we are still right there in this game. We're hanging in there, even though we are on the road, so that's a good sign for things to come this season. So far, Clifton Jennings is leading the way with 11 points. Starting to slip back a little bit. Now it's a good time to use a timeout. There we go. As we are down 10. With just under 10 to play, and we come out and get 4 points in a row, getting us back in the game a bit. And we're right back down 10. It looks like we might be experiencing a loss here in the first game. Down 12, just a few minutes to play. And there goes our last timeout, final minute. So we hung with them most of the game. We got out-rebounded. We got out-blocked. Neely had 12 points. Isaac Kidd had 14. So, mixed performance. Aki Collins was just 1 of 5 from the field. Charles George was 2 of 10. So, pretty poor shooting on the day. It looks like Troy's defense stifled us. We only shot 42% from the field. We had 14 turnovers in the game compared to their 12, so that was pretty balanced. But the rebounding, they had a pretty big edge on that. We were 6 of 13 beyond the arc, which is nice compared to their 1 of 19. That really should have seen us through in this game. Fouls were 10 to 3. Wow, they only had 3 fouls the whole game. That's a factor. A factor in any game. All right, so we start off the season with a loss, but it doesn't mean a whole lot. It was on the road against a team in a higher division, so that is bound to be the case from time to time. So we're going to finish out the week we'll get into our recruiting for next week. As we've still got some time left in this episode, we might get one more game in and sim a few games. Next game is at home against Prairie View, team I'm not familiar with. Probably not the real name, obviously. Most of the team names are copyrighted and therefore altered somehow or another.
You have new mail.
Okay, so we actually did get our first win already. Okay, that was the Prairieville. So we did win that game. We are 1-1 now. And after just 2 games, small stat categories, or sample, I should say, but Clifton Jennings is getting better than 20 points a game. And Erickson Lancaster leading in assists, really? Bit surprising there. All right, we do have some new mail. Let's go ahead and check that out. There's a letter of intent from Feltz, which is nice. There's campus visit for Daniel Earl. Thought it was a cool visit, and just him last week. Okay, let's take a look at our recruiting before we get into this week's games. Like I was saying, I think I might offer Williams. We are number 1 on his list. Let's see what happens with Ford first. We're going to give Ford the first call. He's been rejecting us all season long so far. Okay, and let's see, who was Minton? We just started to get access to. We'll host him, good. And by the way, my budget is really getting down to it here, so we do need to get kind of somewhere on this recruiting glass pretty soon. Otherwise, we're going to run out of money. All right, switch the call list, and we're going to call Ford first. No, he still won't give us the time of day, so pull off from him. We're going to go to Williams, and it's time. I'm going to offer him a scholarship. Yeah. So Williams is getting an offer. We're number 1 on his list as of right now, so. And his most important thing is playing close to home. And he's an Oregonian, so we're based in Portland. And he's just a sophomore, so we'll have a couple years out of him. But it's got some real quality coming in. Pretty decent defender, and probably the best scorer this team has seen at this point. With his strength being in or outside shooting. So we've got ourselves a scorer with this kid, and look at that athleticism. All right, we've already got all of our information on Hazleton. Feltz has already signed with us. Marcelo Lee, he's had a scholarship offer for quite a while. We're only number 4 on his list, though, so I think it really comes down to what happens with those top 3 and whether he's willing to sign with us. But you can see pretty solid set of a lot of Bs and strong outside shooting for this player. He can be a pretty decent guy for us if he's willing to sign. All right, here, Daniel Earl. This is the one who just came for the visit. Interest is still low, but we do have interest, and he's jumped from nowhere on the list to 6th now. And we just started to gather information on him last week as he finally gave us the time of day. So we'll see if we can't get everything else. There we go. All right, so playing time, location, and academics are big for him, and he's hometown. Okay, we've already got everything here on Montgomery. Armstrong has already signed with us. Though, interestingly, he didn't do a letter of intent. All right, on to Terry Minton. I don't think I had parent info on him. So we'll go down to pitch. Nice. We got almost everything on him in just one call. Alright, well that's all our time for calls, so let's go ahead and head to our season. And we'll push through this whole week. All right, so next up is Evansville. It's another road game. They are 1-1 like we are. If we could pull off a couple road wins here in the non-conference schedule, I'd say we're looking pretty decent going into the season. Oh, not that one though. Home to Missouri, who's only 1-2 next. Should be a win here. If we hold serve. And we do. So we bring the record to 2-2. So we split the games this week. One home game, one away game, and so far we're 0-2 on the road and 2-0 at home so far. And look at that, Chad Williams has given a verbal. So we offered the scholarship, and he instantly said, "Absolutely, coach." So there you go, Chad Williams. He's made the decision and chose our school. So there's our third recruit for the year. And let's see how those visits went, or that visit from Trey Minton went. He enjoyed the visit, so that should help boost him up a little bit. We're down to that single scholarship left to fill. I've got 2 shooting guards, and presumably in the long run, one of them would play as either a point guard or a small forward. So that last scholarship needs to be in that range. I'm trying to remember. We weren't looking at point guard necessarily. In fact, I think forward was the only one. We had Wise as well, but that's because they were both ranked so high. So it is a center really that I should be trying to sign on this last scholarship. As now I have 2 guys really that could play at small forward. So if I don't get much from Marcelo Lee here in the near future, we might be trying to go to maybe Gordon. Even though Minton is rated higher, he's only a C. But we'll keep an eye on those guys head to head. Of all the centers, Gordon's the only one with an overall of B. So we'll keep an eye on that here. Alright, we'll do our... let's get a once-over of everyone first. Make sure nobody's gone on to sign with any other teams yet. So just like that, we got Chad Williams. That's awesome. He's going to be a pretty solid player stepping in. And we've gotten a little bit of information out of Robert Ford. He liked us at one point. Yeah, I think it's time we let this kid go now that we've got 2 guards. So it's time. We're going to take him off both lists. And that's it. We're done with Ford. Okay, Feltz is signed with us. Marcelo Lee. Yeah, we're still number 4 on his list. Daniel Earl. Okay, so Trey Minton, we've creeped onto his list at number 10. And I know we still needed one piece of information. Let's see if we can't grab that real quick. There we go. Okay, Darius Wise is another point guard. And again, I don't have need for a point guard, so I'm going to go ahead and take him off the list. And here's the one we're kind of looking at now, is Michael Gordon. If we don't get Marcelo Lee, this is who I might be offering, so we definitely want to scout him live. We've already got all the information we need from him. Alright, just like that, we got all the information we needed from him. Finally getting kind of low enough on the list for some of this to matter. We'll host him. Okay, John Walton. I'm going to try to scout these centers that we have, as that's kind of our one area once we get past Marcelo Lee anyway. Alright, that's all the time we have on calls. So let's go back to the overview, which will be easier to see everything. Got one more player I can scout. I've still got 7 guys that we can go observe. Now we have everyone on the list with at least a little bit of interest. But there's still a handful of guys that have not visited the school. And Williams looks like the last one. Let's get these guys scouted. Okay, we'll scout Minton. We're going to scout Earl. And then we're going to scout Lee. We're still keeping an eye on. And Montgomery. And maybe Hazleton. Yeah, the other guys are all listed already. There you go. Alright, so back to the season. Again, we've got 3 recruits now. Let's see. Push through one more week here real quick. We'll do our recruiting for next week. And then I'll try to get one more game in the following week on the schedule. Now we've got New Rochelle. They are just 1-3. So if we're gonna win any road games, I'd kind of say this has got to be one of our opportunities to pull off a win on the road. And sure enough, we do. We only had that one game this week. At New Rochelle, and we do get the win, so we go to 3-2. Good sign for the team that we are on track for at least a little bit of success this year. That was the end of the month, so we still have more to go to finish up the week. We've got Jacksonville at home, and they are 2-3. So kind of again with we should be holding at home, so we should. you would think, come out with a win here on this game, and we do. We're at 4-2 now.
You have new mail.
Just kind of an update now. 6 games in. Our sample size is getting a little bit larger. Charles George is kind of leading the way on having an impact defensively. Marcus Lowe is grabbing the most boards. Aki Collins is now emerging as team leader, which he should be as point guard with the assists. And Clifton Jennings, 15.5 points per game. All right, Perry Williams, campus visit. Didn't like the visit, so that might have hurt his interest. Here's our rivalry game with Portland State coming up. They are, let's see, RSTU. So they're just 3 divisions ahead of us and are at 3-3 right now. I think we're going to be at home, which should give us the edge in the game this year. So Perry Williams might have dropped off. Let's see. He most definitely did. Okay, so with that, we're going to actually just go ahead and remove him from the list, as he's decided that we're not good enough for him. All right, and look at that. Our list is getting smaller. In fact, there you go. That much smaller. And the interest levels are getting pretty high on those that are left, making life a lot easier from where I was. I had, I think, about 40 players on my recruiting list to start. It was taking a while. It's getting a lot faster now. So I don't know if I'm quite down to 10 players yet on the list. I will watch some film on my guys just to make sure they're still worth it. At this point, I wouldn't be too worried if I lost Armstrong as a recruit, as I've already now doubled up shooting guard, and he's got that low GPA, and he should be a good player. So I don't mind that he comes, but I don't mind if I lose him now that we've got the highest recruit in class. Okay, so I'm down to 2 guys, but hey, look at this. I can scout them live and get feedback on every single player on my list. Okay, and that budget's down to 4,000 right now. Okay, we'll see if any calls need to be made. That's one area that I think I'm just about done with. I'm not going to have to call any players any longer as we have all the pitch categories down. For now, most of the list. A lot of these guys I never even got to. But now, here we are at the guys at the bottom of the list. Finally getting a chance. And we should be able to fly through most of them pretty easy. Okay, here we go again. This time Curtis Logan. Yes, I've never called these guys before. And there you go. That's the last guy left on our list. So we only have 1 guy left that we need to unlock a little bit of information on. Otherwise, we are done with that when it comes to the recruiting. So it'll come down more to what period we're in, when to try to hit some of those recruits heavy and hard. All right, looking at the time, I'm not going to have enough time for another visual simulation of a game. But we've got... let's get that state rivalry game with Portland State. We'll squeeze it in. So next up is Southern Utah at home. They are 1-5, so we definitely should be coming out on top for that game. There's that one now. We should move to 5-2. And we do. We've got Georgia State next. Oh no, I have an injured player. Roster. Injuries. Kevin Cole, sprained ankle, 9 days at 75%. Okay. That's not good, but that's not that bad of an injury, so we'll be okay. All right, well, I was going to try to get that one more game in, but I do not have the time, so we'll just sim out the rest of this week, and we're going to call it good. So I've made some progress. We added top recruit Chad Williams. He's ranked inside the top 100. And when we are down in a conference 22 out of 23, out of, what is it, like 328 teams or something like that, to have a single recruit inside the top 328 means we're getting one of the top players out there. You got to figure that on average, every program in the nation is grabbing 2 to 3 recruits. So if we're getting anybody inside the top 8 or 900, really, we're having a successful recruiting season. And here I am with 3 top recruits inside the top 400. And Armstrong was in the top 150 when we grabbed him. That next game is Portland State. They are 4-4. We are at home for that, but I just don't have the time to show it right now. So that's going to do it for this episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer, and remember, I'm aiming for the best of the best. So if you're ready to join me on my journey, hit subscribe, and tune in next time on my road to the record. Bye for now.